So I'm going to give you some whoppers, and I'm going to also show you some challenges that we have to our retire early lifestyle, and also mention some possible solutions. So stick with the video. Can you imagine if I came to you, grabbed your wallet and said, I'm not going to give you your wallet until you submit updated information. I mean, this is how they operate. There are silver linings, and we're going to talk about them today in our walkers. But listen to this. We've been seeing more and more reports of gold and silver dealers getting their long-term banking relationships in USA shut down. But this is, I like to give a little background and a little history when I start talking about my whoppers. And so I'm going to do that. And through the years, what I've seen is that the premise of our interaction with other human beings is, in a lot of cases, commercial. Like, we fulfill a lot of our needs through commercial relationships. And that is to say, we are buying and selling from people. And a lot of times it's an established concern, that is to say, people that have an ongoing reputation and something that you can rely on. So that you can go, for example, to a gold and silver shop, a dealer, somebody that has an established reputation in the community, where it isn't somebody you just met on the street that you run the risk of being defrauded and then not having any recourse. And so with established reputations, that's a different conversation, because on a one-on-one dealing with people, we would want to do is we would want to get to know them and get to know whether they're trustworthy in that way. Test all spirits and hang on to those that are good. But as I travel the world, and we've been abroad 12 years, and we just see the differences, and it doesn't seem to matter where you are. What it comes down to in every single relationship, transactional relationship, everywhere we go, like even here or anywhere, in any place, it really comes down with the individual person that you're dealing with. Take, for example, this view. Like, we have this view every single day, and I know that when we first got here, when you first get here, you just can't get enough of the view. You like to sit out here all the time and all that. After 2 or 3 months, you're sitting here less. In other words, things that are familiar tend to become, they have less value to us, even though they intrinsically still have the value we mentally perceive that we have it, and therefore don't appreciate it as much. And in other words, it just becomes the saying, it becomes like wallpaper. Well, this is, the analogy here is that, see if you can tie this analogy together. This is where I was going with it, is that I've just noticed a lot of businesses, either large or small, have the same reaction, the same mindset reaction to the scenario of where they have too many customers. Okay, so if they have like a lot of customers, for example, right, I've noticed, like, when you go to places like Puerto Vallarta, I'm not just talking about Puerto Vallarta, we spent 8 years in Ecuador, we've been in Central America and Europe. We've noticed how landlords act, and each person is an individual. I know everybody's different, but there seems to be a recurring thing that we see over and over and over, where in a place like this, it's touristy, when a person perceives that they have a lot of customers, back-to-back customers, people are treated with less respect, like, well, I don't need you kind of thing, and they are just treated, it's just more competitive. I hate to use the word competitive, because it doesn't really describe how people tend to perceive the need. Well, whereas, for example, when you have a landlord in a market that is a buyer's market, they tend to be more accommodating. They tend to be more flexible. They work with you more. If you have needs, they pay attention to your needs more. Whereas in markets such as Mexico has both markets we've been in, both in Baja and here Puerto Vallarta, although it's a lot more seasonal here, it seems. There seems to be more of a, we don't care what your needs are. I've got another tenant waiting right after you, and I don't care what you need, and I don't care where you're coming from kind of attitude. And so where I'm going with this is that it leads back to these reports of these gold and silver dealers getting their relationship severed by the banks. We have to put this in perspective because, again, I like to say a lot of us were born in this kind of environment. But if you can jog your memory, if you're my age or older, and if you're not, you can realize something too, that back in those days, there was a lot less need for banking. You have to understand that a lot of these institutions, like banking, and cultures that use banking, have through the years tended to mature in the sense that because of convenience, there's that word again, because of convenience, a lot more people traveling now, a lot more people need to use banks, international banks. I mean, can you just see somebody trying to use cash only without a bank? Unless they're totally local in a local area. If you're traveling internationally, you're going to depend on banks. And more our lives throughout the several decades that I've been on this planet, banking has become more and more integral to our existence. And that was pre-Bitcoin. But I'm saying all that to say that the other side of this coin is from the banker's point of view, where now they get to have that attitude just like the landlords in the landlord's market. Where they don't need you. And the banks can now say, well, they need us more than we need them. When they start feeling like they have a captive market and they know that everybody wants their business because they need to have their business and you don't have any other options because you need them, and we've got so many customers that we don't care if we cut you off, right? You see where I'm going with this? Yeah, let me know in the comments what you think about that picture, that mindset, that scenario. This is what we're seeing with a lot of the businesses. It's not just the banks. Some people call it cancel culture. When you look at, I have made several videos about PayPal, but PayPal is very exemplary of the cancel culture. They have on multiple occasions, it's like in the old days, if there was any issue or any question, you would simply be contacted and say, hey, what's going on with this matter over here? What is this issue about? We need to see this from you. It was a personal contact. Instead, what we're seeing now is the complete opposite. That attitude that we don't need you. We have billions of customers. It doesn't even matter how we treat them. We have so many of them. We're growing so fast. We have so much money that it doesn't matter how many of you we cancel. Kind of attitude. And it's like nobody contacts you for simple things. Like, let's say that you have a commercial relationship with something and there's an issue. Well, what do? Like here, we're renting the place and, the light switch goes out and, we contact them and say, hey, just to let you know, the light switch isn't working anymore. But could you imagine if instead of doing that, we just stopped paying the rent? We just didn't say anything, we just stopped paying the rent. Or can you imagine if the landlord just locked you out because they had a question about something or other, and they just came over here and changed the lock and key, and they weren't around or whatever, or and then you showed up and then you couldn't get into your apartment? This is what cancel culture is. And this is what banks, it's not just PayPal. This is, a lot of people, when you talk about PayPal and make videos about it, they think, well, it's just PayPal, I don't use PayPal. But the evidence shows this getting ingrained, this mindset is getting somewhat ingrained in the culture. Can you imagine if I came to you, grabbed your wallet and said, I'm not going to give you your wallet until you submit updated information. I mean, this is how they operate. They block, and that's what they do, they block. Now these banks, these coin dealers, they received a communication from the bank saying that we're not going to have the banking relationship. And this is in a culture where we need banking. So what we need to do, because I want to offer you solutions. All right, so all of this has been setting up pre-2020, and in 2020 it's starting to speed up. But now we have things like Bitcoin, Monero, privacy coins, and this kind of thing. And so what's happening is that as the culture becomes more and more centralized, those of us that are led to do the sensible thing are going to want and are going to need to understand and embrace decentralization in all parts of our life, which also includes financial, banking, and everything else. People use terminology like off-grid, but this would be off-grid on steroids. I mean, this would be the more decentralized. And look, I understand that it's complicated, but a journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step. And so I have been thinking about giving a free seminar on how to get started with decentralization of your finances. And by the way, if you want to make a donation with Monero, if you don't know where to get Monero, we have other links that show you where to get Monero, and we now take Monero. So we practice what we preach, and we're just done with companies like PayPal. You know, it is our hope and our wish that all of those that are led to do the right thing will understand how important it is to become as decentralized as possible and decouple from the evil that is in this world that wants to do nothing but leave you stranded and helpless and let you starve while they sit there and bask in all of the abundance of the earth. Don't let it happen to you. I'm thinking about doing a free seminar on how to get started with decentralization. Let me know your thoughts on that in the comments. Next Whopper, I talked about how Mexico was standing up to the insanity of the USA on the GMO corn. Well, guess what? Remember that they were going to go to an arbitration, which is a trap. I said it was a trap before it happened, and guess what? Canada is jumping on the bandwagon and jumping down Mexico's throat. This is just nothing more than a gang of thugs. Here's the thing, you notice how birds of a feather flock together. You've heard the saying, right? Communists help out communists. You see this in the degenerate culture. You know, they figured out that if they band together, they're stronger. Unfortunately, what they don't know, because the bad guys and gals don't understand this aspect, and that is that while they may be clever, they're not wise. And what that does is it leads them to the blind leading the blind, and they both fall into a ditch. So they can gang up on the good guys all they want, but they're just the blind leading the blind, and they're both going to fall into a ditch. So Canada joining the USA, ganging up on Mexico. Mexico, stand your ground, make a stand, don't fall for it, and you know, stick to your guns and do what's right by the people. Don't believe in the fairy tales that come out of up north. Good for you. That is how they've responded, and I applaud them for that. And so you notice how communists stick with other communists. This is something to pay attention to, because I mean, the internet is exploding with this idea of leaving America. But when you think about this concept of birds of a feather, and you do things like go to, you know, they're banding together with the USA, and that tells you something. So this is something to keep in mind and think about, because a lot of people, I mean, it's on a lot of people's minds that they want to, you know, leave the USA, they want to go here, they want to go there, and a lot of it is very superficial. Let me know what you think about learning more about decentralizing your finances. And by the way, you want to support the channel, and you can do so anonymously now. You can send us a Monero coin. Check the links below, and nobody will know that you sent us Monero. It's totally anonymous, and it's permission and trust free. How do you like them apples? Have a wonderful day.